It's 3 p.m. A fair few people at shows have asked me to show them around the engine bay to get a good idea of what's actually going on in there. So I'm going to use my trusty pointy stick, which is essentially a magnet holder without the magnet on it, to go across everything. I'll go pretty much from left from right, and hopefully it'll answer a few questions. This all gubbins around here, this thing here is the charge cooler. So rather than having an intercooler, because I've got absolutely no room down here and no thickness to get an intercooler, I've used a charge cooler. Now, charge coolers use water and coolant, but they've got their own systems. They don't operate off the main coolant system from the engine. They operate off a completely separate one. This is a complete closed loop system. So I've got a little 12-volt pump down here that's triggered by a relay, which is just here, and that's all fired off the ECU, which is here. So once the engine is started, it then fires up. So that there is the reservoir cap, so it's full of coolant. This is the overflow pipe, and essentially we go down into a radiator that's in front of the, so it's just behind the grill. It's only about 15mm thick, and it reaches from about there to about there and butts up almost next to the main radiator, and it manages to keep the inlet temperatures quite cool. I've taken into consideration that water is actually 4 times more efficient than an air-to-air intercooler, so I don't need as much room for it, hence why the application. You've seen one of these before if you've got anything after about a 1984 car. This is the brake servo. I bought this brand spanking new, as well as the actual servo itself. The master cylinder's bolted straight onto it. My old one was completely covered in crap, so I got rid of it. So boost pipe. This is going to the throttle body. A lot of people thought this was going the other way around. However, the turbocharger's all the way back down here. The pipe goes all the way around underneath all this, around into the back of the charge cooler, up, through, and then around a big U-bend and into the inlet system, which is a specialist components 50mm throttle body with 2 times 630mm injectors, which are pretty much good for just over 200 brake horsepower. So this little item down here, this is the blow-off valve. If you hear cars go down the road and when they let off they sound like a car bus door, yep, that's what I've got. That's an adjustable turbo smart unit, really nice little piece of kit. I did have a Bailey's dump valve on that completely shat itself, so I've replaced it with that. Blue thing up here, fuel pressure regulator. This is a 1-in-1 rising rate, hence why it's got the sensor line on it. This goes to the throttle body, so as the pressure increases, so does the fuel pressure, so it isn't fighting itself in the throttle body. Moving along, we've got on the top of it, that's the fuel rail. 2 fuel injectors with both plugs on it. 50mm throttle body, as I said, and this is what I've replaced recently. This is the Inlet Manifold. This has gone to a mini spares item. I had an MG naturally aspirated unit beforehand. It was terrible. I've replaced it with this. Moving over, you can probably just see this little guy down the bottom. This is the turbo actuator, so this is what controls your boost, as well as the boost controller. So between these two, this is what's operating the wastegate on the turbo and holding the amount of energy from the exhaust flowing through the turbine impeller, and hence turning and spinning the compressor, which is what's making your boost. This massive black pipe here, this goes to a catch can in my passenger side wing, big thing that's been made by Matty at Fusion Fabrications. So rather than having all little tiny breathers, I've got one great big one off the top of the top of the rocker cover. I've also got one underneath here that's coming from the transfer case, and I've got one round the back that's coming from the chain as well. Those of you with an MPI will know this is the expansion tank. Just a standard expansion tank really for me. It works, it does the job. DSN thermostat housing, as well as the tie rod. This just helps as well as the other one to keep a bit of stability. Obviously we're running more torque. You don't want the engine ripping itself out of the engine mounts. And on that, I do have standard engine mounts underneath, and below that I have 2 other ties that go into the subframe as well. Alternator, you should also know what one of those does already, and the only place I could actually fit it, there's the inlet filter as well. Standard from the front as well, standard pipe, but these are made by Viper Performance. These are all silicone ones. Say alloy 50mm radiator, MPR radiator at the front. You've got your coil pack, and these are just standard leads because you don't need anything special. I'm running a slightly cooler spark plug as well, just due to the boost. Hopefully that covers off that.